Cannon fire erupts, smoke fills the air, and roughly 9,000 Austrian soldiers sit anxiously inside the walls of Austria's Italian stronghold Mantua. General Napoleon Bonaparte, the overall commander of the French forces in Italy, has begun his siege and is one step closer to pushing the Austrians out of Italy. Before we begin the siege, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and check out the links in the description below. While the French Republic was fighting for its survival, La Campagne d'Italie was not merely about conquest. It was a strategic endeavor aimed at weakening the Austrian Habsburgs, one of the major powers standing against the French. The trail of this campaign led to the gates of Mantua, a city in northern Italy. But why Mantua, you might ask? Mantua was no ordinary city. It was a stronghold, a strategic gem, nestled between three artificial lakes. This unique location made it a natural fortress that was difficult to assault but also challenging to supply and reinforce. It was a double-edged sword, a prize that the Austrian army was determined to hold on to at all costs. For Austria, Mantua was a bulwark against French aggression, a defensive line that, if breached, could open the way for the French to Vienna. For Napoleon, it represented a critical step in his campaign, a stepping stone to greater victories. The political and military stakes were high. The French, buoyed by revolutionary fervor, were eager to prove their worth on the battlefield. The Austrians, on the other hand, were fighting to preserve their empire, their way of life. As the French forces marched under the bright summer sun, the towering walls of Mantua loomed in the distance. The Austrian flags fluttered in the wind, a sign of defiance, a challenge. The inhabitants of the city watched the approaching army with a mix of fear and anticipation. The stage was set, the actors were in place, the drama of war was about to unfold. As Napoleon's army of Italy approached, Mantua braced itself for a siege that would go down in history. On June 4, 1796, the Siege of Mantua began. As the sun crept over the horizon, the French army, led by the ambitious Napoleon Bonaparte, moved into position. Their objective, the city of Mantua, a jewel of the Austrian Empire, stood fortified and ready. Napoleon's forces, not to be deterred, initiated the siege with a calculated sense of determination. They implemented a series of well-planned tactics, designed to pressure the Austrian defenders into submission. The French utilized a strategy of encirclement, cutting off any potential avenues of escape or reinforcement for the Austrian army. This maneuver, however, was not without its challenges. Mantua, with its formidable fortifications and natural defenses, proved to be a tough nut to crack. The Austrians, under the command of General Wurmser, put up a staunch resistance, repelling the French attacks with a fierce determination that echoed the city's historic resilience. As the siege wore on, both armies grappled with their own unique set of challenges. For the French, supply lines became increasingly stretched as they maintained their encirclement. The once lush fields surrounding Mantua turned into a barren wasteland, stripped of resources by the ravenous appetite of an army at war. The Austrians, on the other hand, faced the grim prospect of dwindling supplies and a populace growing weary of the siege. Weather, too, played its part in this epic struggle. The summer sun bore down mercilessly on the French troops, unaccustomed to the Italian heat, while the Austrians huddled within the city walls, contending with the stifling conditions. As months rolled into autumn, the encroaching chill of winter began to make its presence felt, adding another layer of complexity to the already tense situation. Yet, despite these challenges, Napoleon's forces persevered. They adapted, they endured, they improvised. They met the obstacles head-on, their resolve unwavering, their spirit undiminished. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the French tightened their grip around the beleaguered city. Despite the odds, Napoleon's forces persevered, tightening their grip around the beleaguered city. As the siege wore on, the balance of power began to shift. Slowly but surely, the French forces began to gain the upper hand. The arrival of reinforcements breathed new life into the beleaguered French troops. Fresh soldiers, rations and ammunition were a much-needed lifeline, tipping the scales ever so slightly in their favor. From this point onward, the tide of battle started to turn. It was during this critical juncture that the Battle of Castiglione took place. It was a grueling encounter, a testament to the tenacity and resilience of both sides. But the French, under Napoleon's brilliant leadership, emerged victorious. This victory marked the beginning of a series of successful French offensives. Just a few months later, the Battle of Arcole unfolded. This battle was a masterclass in Napoleon's tactical genius. He understood the terrain, the strengths and weaknesses of his forces, and the psyche of his enemy. He used these elements to his advantage, orchestrating a strategic masterpiece that left the Austrians reeling. The French forces under Napoleon's command fought with an intensity and determination that was truly awe-inspiring. The Austrian forces, on the other hand, found themselves in an increasingly desperate situation. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outmatched. Their morale was low, their supplies were dwindling, and their options were running out. The relentless French assaults were taking a heavy toll. Each passing day brought new challenges and hardships, pushing them closer to their breaking point. These major battles were a turning point in the Siege of Mantua. They marked a shift in momentum from a stalemate to a French advantage. Napoleon's tactical acumen and the indomitable spirit of the French forces were key factors in this shift. In the face of relentless French assaults, the Austrians' resolve began to waver. The once formidable Austrian forces were now on the back foot, struggling to hold their ground against the relentless French onslaught. The tide had turned, and the Siege of Mantua was entering its climactic phase. By February 1797, the end was in sight for the defenders of Mantua. As the siege drew on, Mantua's once proud and defiant city was caught in the throes of despair. The once bustling streets were now eerily quiet, save for the occasional echo of distant artillery. Food and supplies had dwindled to nearly nothing, and the spectre of starvation loomed ominously over the city's beleaguered inhabitants. The Austrian forces, once a formidable presence, were now a shadow of their former selves. Exhausted, hungry, and demoralized, they were simply holding on, hoping for a miracle that would never come. The city's defenses, once thought impregnable, were now crumbling under the relentless French assault. 4 times Austria tried to relieve the city, and 4 times Napoleon stopped them. Austrian Field Marshal Wurmser stood determined to hold out, but knew the situation was bleak. Despite the dire circumstances, he refused to surrender, holding out against the French onslaught with a determination that was both admirable and heartbreaking. Yet even his unwavering resolve could not stave off the inevitable. As the city's defenses crumbled, Wurmser was eventually captured, marking a significant victory for the French forces. His capture symbolized the end of Austrian resistance in Mantua, and it wasn't long before the city was officially surrendered to the French. With the fall of Mantua, a silence settled over the city that had been under siege for months. The once defiant city was now under French control, its Austrian defenders either captured or fleeing. The French victory marked a turning point in the War of the First Coalition, signaling a shift in power from the Habsburg monarchy to the burgeoning French Republic. In the grand scheme of history, the fall of Mantua was more than just a military victory for Napoleon. It was a statement, a demonstration of his strategic brilliance and relentless determination. It was a testament to his ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds, to seize victory from the jaws of defeat. With the fall of Mantua, Napoleon had struck a devastating blow against the Habsburg monarchy. The Siege of Mantua marked a turning point in the French Revolutionary Wars. In the immediate aftermath, the Treaty of Campo Formio was signed, leading to a significant reorganization of northern Italy. The once powerful Republic of Venice was dissolved, and in its place the French established the Cisalpine Republic. The successful siege also had a profound impact on Napoleon Bonaparte's reputation. Already a rising star, his successful campaign in Mantua solidified his status as a master strategist. His ability to maintain a prolonged siege while simultaneously keeping Austrian reinforcements at bay was nothing short of military genius. Napoleon's success in Mantua set the stage for his future conquests and ultimately his ascension to Emperor of the French. The siege's legacy lives on, not just in history books, but in the enduring image of Napoleon as one of the greatest military minds of all time. Though long and grueling, the Siege of Mantua stands as a testament to Napoleon's strategic brilliance and the indomitable spirit of his army of Italy. Hopefully you enjoyed this video enough to hit the like button and will become a fellow Minuteman by subscribing to the channel. Before you go, be sure to check out the links in the description below. We are the Minutemen of History.